Hello everyone, and welcome to the Botanical Interests YouTube channel, more specifically a new little segment that they're doing called the Creator Seed Diaries. My name is Meg, and I'm the creator behind the account Meg Grows Plants across all of the different platforms, and you may recognize me from being over on the Epic Gardening channel from time to time. And I'm so excited to be here today to tell you guys about some of my favorite seeds that I'm starting in January right now here in North Carolina, Zone 8A. You might be looking behind me and be thinking, Meg, what do you mean your garden looks dead? Why are we starting seeds in January? But here in Zone 8A, we kind of have to get ahead of the game a little bit because winter, it's like it's real here, but it's not. We get freezes, but then we have, the fake spring in February that just gaslights us, and then we get freezes again, and then by March and April, it's suddenly really hot. It's almost like we skip spring. And so these things that thrive in cool temperatures and they take a really long time to grow, we kind of want to get ahead of the game and get them transplantable before that sudden heat kind of kicks in. Let's start with onions. January is the perfect time to get your onions started indoors. Here in Zone 8A, we have 2 times that we can plant onions. You can plant them in the fall, you can direct seed them in the garden, and this is the method that gets you the biggest onions, but you can also start in January, and they may not grow to be quite as large, but they still have time to size up really well. And I like the control that gives you because our winters are so kind of up and down and very unpredictable here in North Carolina. I just don't really like leaving my onions to the elements all winter. That's just personally the way that I prefer to do it. So I like to start my onions and other alliums in January indoors. This variety is my favorite. It is called the Yellow Granix PRR, and it's basically the Vidalia onion. On the back here, it says Yellow Granix PRR is one of the few varieties approved by the Georgia Agricultural Commission to be sold as Vidalia onion when it's grown in approved areas near Vidalia, Georgia. And Vidalia onions are one of my favorite onions because they taste amazing. They're so sweet. If you're an onion lover like me, I love eating onions, even raw. Vidalia onion, I can bite into like an apple. They're just delicious. And I have some really fun childhood memories attached to these onions. My grandfather, he was super Southern, and Vidalia was one of his favorites. And I just remember him saying it in the most Southern way possible. I can't even imitate how Southern it was. It was like, Vidalia, bring me some of them Vidalia onions. Yeah, I don't know. It was like that, but worse. This Yellow Granix onion is a short day onion, and that is really important when you're trying to decide which onions to plant. It depends on where you live. We have 3 different types. We have short day, we have intermediate or neutral day, and then we have long day. Here in North Carolina, we can either grow intermediate day or short day onions. Onions are kind of like main character energy of the garden. They're divas, they're finicky. You can't just chaos garden onions, unfortunately, which if you know me, you know that's like my favorite thing to do. They're really picky about when you plant them and what variety you plant. Onions bulbing is very dependent on the number of daylight hours, so that's why it's so important that you're getting the correct variety. I can't tell you how many times I've been to a garden center and I've seen them selling us long day onions here. If we plant long day onions here in our garden, they're not gonna bulb. We're gonna get these puny little onions. And so that's why I love starting onions from seed. I have so much more control over it, and I am not gonna get scammed by a garden center, especially a corporate one. Those are the most notorious for doing that. Seeding your onions is really easy, and thankfully they're not as finicky about their seeding as they are about their variety and timing. You can actually sow them pretty densely across a seed tray or a jug of any kind. They're also very shallow rooting, so any kind of tray, if you have like blueberry trays from indoors, you can repurpose those to use for onions. Those are really great. Sow them about 1/4 of an inch in depth, and then when they start coming up, You can separate them out. You can pull them apart. They really don't mind that at all. You can up pot them, or if they're ready to go out into the garden, you can just transplant them. You want to transplant them when they get about the thickness of a pencil. And one little trick to keep them more upright throughout their growing process is when they grow to be about 4 to 6 inches tall, you can trim them down to be about 3 to 4 inches tall. And again, that just keeps them kind of upright and not flopping over before it's time. Some other honorable mention alliums that you can grow exactly how you're growing onions are garlic chives. These are actually perennials. They'll come back every year. I love, love, love garlic chives. I love putting them on basically anything that I eat. Zabroon shallots. These are amazing. It's a French variety, perfect for a shallot vinaigrette. Absolutely perfect. And then we have King Richard leeks. I grow these every single year because one of my favorite spring dishes to make is leek and potato soup. And if you've never had leek and potato soup made from homegrown leeks, you're missing out. I'm telling you, it changes your life. Next up are our brassicas, and brassicas can be really tricky to grow in the spring here in Zone 8A because our weather, again, it's like this. It can go from 40 degrees to 85 degrees in like 12 minutes, and then everything that you've transplanted, all the brassicas that you transplanted, they just want to bolt. They just want to go to seed. They don't want to produce. And I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me. And I've decided that January is officially the time to get your brassicas started, because brassicas are cool weather crops. They don't like the heat. And so if we get them out there and we get them transplanted before the heat sets in, we're gonna have much better harvests. And the golden ticket here is starting your brassicas from seed in the spring, because a lot of garden centers, they don't put out their transplants until March, even April sometimes, and that is way too late. When we can start our seeds in January, we can transplant them out February, the end of February, and they can go ahead and start, establishing themselves and start producing for us. Getting ahead of the game and starting our own seeds is a surefire way to get a great brassica harvest. One of my absolute favorite varieties to grow is this burgundy broccoli. I'm growing this right now. It's actually in the garden from when I planted it in the fall. And I love this broccoli. It's a branching kind of variety. So it puts out smaller little heads. It doesn't do one big head like other varieties. It does small little heads, and then it puts out these little side shoots, which I actually prefer. I think it's easier to clean that way. I kind of hate cleaning a huge head of broccoli. It's just a lot of work. I would rather clean little small ones. And I think that they're more tender as well, and they're just fun to toss in salads to brighten up a salad with a little bit of purple. I love a purple vegetable. I also love a classic dinosaur kale, or it's also called lacinato kale. This is my favorite kale. Again, it seems to be more heat resistant than the curly kale. I think that it is more pest resistant than curly kale as well. We have a lot of aphids that come out in the spring, and my aphids seem to flock to the curly kale and they leave this one alone. And so I harvest the most of the dinosaur kale. Planting brassicas is easy. We're gonna plant them in seed trays and keep them indoors, or like me, I'm using my greenhouse for this. And they don't quite tolerate crowding like onions do, so we do want to just keep it to one plant per cell for these. You wanna make sure you're hardening them off before you're transplanting them outside. And cabbage moth is probably the primary pest that we face here for these. A quick way to protect those from cabbage moth is a light frost cover over them, especially when you've just transplanted them and you want them to get a really good solid start. And lastly, we have our cold tolerant spring flowers, because flowers are just as important in a garden, if not more important than edible crops. You have to have flowers. And also, when it's spring and you're just coming out of your winter hibernation, especially if you suffer from seasonal affective disorder like I do, seeing flowers can just instantly brighten your mood. So I think that it's worth it to plant these really early indoors. Go ahead and get a head start on their blooming cycle, because you technically can just direct sow these into the ground 4 to 6 months before, 4 to 6 weeks before the average last frost date. but I like to just, why not, get them started, go ahead and get them started so that they're blooming 4 to 6 weeks before your frost date, and you can look at flowers for 4 to 6 weeks. I have some favorites here. So pansies is a must. This is the Swiss Giants blend, and I love a blend because I love all of the different colors that come in this blend. They're incredibly beautiful, and I love pansies because they're edible flowers. And when I'm doing some spring baking, I love coming out to the garden, picking some of these flowers and just decorating my food with it, decorating a cake with it, cookies with them. You can candy these. You can do so many things with these beautiful edible flowers. Another edible flower that I always grow are violas or Johnny Jump Ups. These kind of look like pansies, but they're a little bit different. But I just love the purple and yellow together. It is just such a complementary color combo. Nature is amazing how she comes up with these color combos. Lastly, probably one of my absolute favorite flowers in the whole wide world, snapdragons, specifically this blend, Magic Carpet blend. We've got pinks, we've got kind of redder colors, white, yellow. It's such a beautiful spring blend. And I love snapdragons because I have honeybees, and I love watching my honeybees scoot into the snapdragon. If you've ever seen one, they open up, and they're called snapdragons because they kind of resemble a dragon that's opening its mouth. And bees, when they go in there, they're so cute when they crawl in and their little butts are hanging out. It's just adorable. I love it. Also, when they go to seed, their seed pods kind of look like little skulls. So it's kind of creepy in that way, but I love it. I think it's so fun and whimsical. When you're sowing your flower seeds, be sure to check the instructions on the back because some of them need light in order to germinate, like the snapdragons. They like to just be surface sown. Don't bury them. They need that light to germinate. But these two, they don't need light to germinate. So you're gonna sow them, but not that deep, only 1/8 of an inch. Just kind of sow them and then barely cover them with soil. And don't forget to deadhead these once they start blooming, just to keep the blooms coming. Thank you guys so much for listening to me talk about my favorite seed picks for January. And if you wanna see more videos like this, be sure to follow Botanical Interests. And you can find me at Meg Grows Plants across all of the platforms. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everything. Good luck in the garden, guys. Bye.